Savannah Guthrie, the face that has greeted millions of Americans each morning, the voice that has announced both triumph and tragedy to a nation, has become one of the most trusted figures in broadcast journalism. At 54, she sits at the helm of NBC's Today Show, commanding a salary of $8 million per year, interviewing presidents and pop stars with equal grace. But this is not a story about glamour. This is not a story about easy victories or red carpets. This is a story about a girl from Melbourne, Australia, who lost her father too young, about a woman who rebuilt her entire life after a devastating divorce, about a journalist who suffered a near-blinding injury live on television, about a mother who balanced the weight of national news while grieving private losses the cameras never saw. The world sees the polished anchor behind the desk, but behind that brilliant smile lies a story not glamorous, but brutal, not charmed, but earned through tears, sacrifice, and a resilience most will never understand. If Savannah Guthrie has ever made you feel informed, comforted, or inspired during your morning routine, hit like as tribute to her dedication to truth and grace under pressure. This is the story of how a girl who lost everything built herself into one of the most powerful women in American media, and what it cost her along the way. December 27, 1971, Melbourne, Australia. A baby girl entered the world, but the celebration would be short-lived. Savannah Clark Guthrie was born to Nancy Guthrie, a schoolteacher, and Charles Guthrie, whose work would soon uproot the family entirely. When Savannah was just 2 years old, the family relocated to Tucson, Arizona, a move that would mark the beginning of constant change. Tucson became home, but home was complicated. Her childhood was not one of stability, but of adaptation. Her father's presence was inconsistent. Her mother worked tirelessly to provide structure, education, discipline. Savannah learned early that survival meant being smart, capable, independent. She excelled in school, debate team, student government, the kind of overachiever who seemed destined for something larger than the desert landscape around her. But then came the loss that would define her. Savannah was just 16 years old when her father, Charles Guthrie, passed away. The details remain private, as she has kept them throughout her life, but the impact was devastating. A teenage girl, already navigating the complexities of identity and ambition, suddenly without the man who should have walked her down the aisle one day. It is heartbreaking when a child loses a parent, but what few people know is how that loss shaped Savannah's relentless drive. She would later say that grief taught her not to wait for life to happen, not to assume tomorrow was guaranteed. At 16, she made a promise to herself: succeed, build something, make the loss mean something. She graduated from Amphitheater High School in Tucson and set her sights on University of Arizona, where she earned a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism in 1993. But she didn't stop there. While her peers celebrated graduation and entry-level jobs, Savannah pushed further. She attended Georgetown University Law Center, earning her Juris Doctor in 2002. She passed the Arizona bar that same year. A lawyer and a journalist. To careers most people would be satisfied with just one of, but Savannah Guthrie was not most people. 1995. Savannah landed her first television job as a reporter for ABC, affiliate KMIZ in Columbia, Missouri. The salary was barely enough to cover rent. The hours were punishing. The stories were local crime, city council meetings, weather emergencies. Not glamorous. Not easy, but it was a start. She moved to KVOA in Tucson in 1997, closer to home, covering the stories of her community. Then came WHDH in Boston in 1999, a larger market, bigger stories, more pressure. But Savannah wasn't chasing fame. She was chasing excellence. By 2002, while completing her law degree, she joined Court TV, now TRUTV, as a legal analyst and correspondent. Her unique combination of legal expertise and on-camera charisma made her invaluable. She covered high-profile trials, Michael Jackson, Martha Stewart, with a depth of understanding that separated her from typical anchors reading TELEPROMPTRS. Then came 2007. NBC News called. She joined as a legal analyst and correspondent, covering the Supreme Court, major trials, breaking legal news. Her intelligence was undeniable. Her presence magnetic. Within months, she was appearing across NBC platforms, Today, Nightly News, MSNBC. By 2011, she was named co-anchor of Today alongside Matt Lauer, replacing Ann Curry in a controversial shakeup that made national headlines. The transition was brutal. Savannah was thrust into a maelstrom of public criticism. Accused of being complicit in Curry's ousting, the pressure was immense. But Savannah Guthrie did not break. She anchored through scandal, through criticism, through doubt, and she emerged as one of the most respected journalists in America. November 21, 2012. Savannah Guthrie, then 40, stood before the cameras and made an announcement that shocked fans. Her marriage to Mark Orchard, a former BBC News correspondent, was over. The divorce was finalized quietly, but the pain was anything but quiet. Savannah and Mark had married in 2005, a union built during her rising career and his own work in journalism. They understood the demands, the travel, the unpredictable hours, but understanding doesn't always mean surviving. What few people know is how isolating that divorce was. Savannah was at the peak of her career, smiling every morning on national television, while privately dismantling a life she thought would last forever. She has rarely spoken about it, but those close to her know the truth. It nearly broke her. Then came June 15, 2014, to 15 p.m. Savannah was playing with her then one-year-old daughter, Vale, in her backyard in New York. A simple moment, a toy truck, laughter. And then, suddenly, everything changed. Vale threw the toy. It struck Savannah directly in her left eye. The pain was immediate, blinding. She was rushed to the hospital, where doctors diagnosed a torn retina. Surgery was required. Recovery uncertain. For weeks, Savannah couldn't see properly. She wore an eye patch off camera. She struggled with depth perception, with reading scripts, with simply existing in a world that suddenly felt unstable. The world saw her return to the Today desk weeks later, smiling, professional, but the truth was different. She has said in interviews that she feared losing her vision permanently, that she questioned whether she could continue her career, that she felt vulnerable in a way she hadn't since losing her father. It is devastating when the body betrays you, when the thing you rely on, sight, in her case, becomes uncertain. But Savannah fought back. Months of recovery, eye drops, follow-up surgeries, and eventually, miraculously, her vision stabilized. But the fear remained. Then came 2017. Matt Lauer, her co-anchor and the face of Today for 2 decades, was fired amid allegations of sexual misconduct. Savannah, once again, was thrust into chaos. She had to anchor the news of his firing live on air, visibly shaken, processing her own shock in real time in front of millions. The backlash was cruel. Some accused her of knowing, of complicity, of benefiting from his downfall. None of it was true, but the weight of it crushed her nonetheless. She cried off camera. She questioned her place. She wondered if the cost of this career was too high. And still, she showed up. Every morning for 30 a.m. wake-up calls, makeup, hair, scripts, interviews, smiling. Even when her heart was shattered, Savannah Guthrie met Michael Feldman, a political consultant and former Al Gore advisor, in 2008 at a mutual friends event. He was different, grounded, kind. They married on March 15, 2014, in a quiet ceremony in Tucson, Arizona, her hometown, the place where her father was buried. It was a return, a reclaiming of home. Together, they've built a life that balances the insanity of her career with the sanctuary of family. They have 2 children, Vale, born August 13, 2014, and Charles, born December 8, 2016, named after Savannah's late father. At 54, Savannah has found something she lost decades ago: stability. Her net worth is estimated at $30 million. She owns a beautiful home in New York, where she spends weekends cooking with her children, reading, practicing the piano she learned as a child. She still wakes at 4:30 a.m., still anchors Today with grace and authority. Still interviews presidents she's covered for administrations, with the sharpness of the lawyer she once was. But now, there's peace. She's spoken openly about her Christian faith, crediting it with carrying her through the darkest moments. She's written a children's book, Princesses Wear Pants, published in 2017, teaching her daughter and others that strength and femininity coexist. She mentors young journalists. She advocates for eye safety after her injury. She shows up, still, every single morning, not because it's easy, but because she promised herself, at 16, standing at her father's grave, that she would never waste the life she was given. At 54, Savannah Guthrie stands as proof that resilience is not the absence of pain, but the refusal to let pain have the final word. From Melbourne, Australia to Tucson, Arizona to the anchor desk of America's most watched morning show, from losing her father at 16 to nearly losing her vision at 40. From a devastating divorce to a marriage that healed her, from grief to grace. This is not a story about perfection. This is a story about showing up. Every morning, even when the world is dark, even when your heart is broken, even when the cameras are watching and waiting for you to fail, Savannah Guthrie did not fail. She rose. If this story touched your heart, leave a tribute below. Share a moment when Savannah's journalism, kindness, or resilience reminded you that strength and grace still exist, even in the hardest mornings.